the fucking shit. It really is. It's a trippy ass episode. How's it going? Uh, Today is a weird fucking episode. We're trying to do a simulcast where we are on YouTube, we're on fucking Facebook, we're on fucking um, Kick, and we are on TikTok. Now, I just smoked a bowl, or I just hit my bowl, and we got immediately kicked the fuck off. So, I guess um, you can drink beer, you can drink and drive, you can film all that shit, you could throw up gang signs, you could show me how to load a gun. But if you smoking some reefer, get out of here with that shit, man. That shit kills people. No, motherfucker, guns kill people. And you know what? I bet you $1 million. I don't even know if this exists, but I'm sure there's about at least 2,000 pages on YouTube that are just about guns. So you got all this shit, all these episodes, and all this climate of different streaming episodes, different streamers, and all this shit. Meanwhile, we getting trapped in this weird ass fucking MacGuffin of a goddamn lifestyle where we're constantly searching for shit to move on to the next step. I'm sorry, this shit gets confusing after a while. And it's like, you get so tired of fucking trying to please these motherfuckers. And then all they do is complain. That's all they ever do is complain. And so, I really don't understand the need to censor people for smoking weed. Again, smoking weed has been around far longer than we have. Weed has been around longer than us, as a species, and yet you will be pulled off for smoking. But you can drink and drive, you can throw up gang signs. It makes no damn sense. I'm watching like a tribute, video to the Crip Walk. And it's like, do you know who does Crip Walk? Crips, motherfucker. And like, I don't know. It's like because I guess maybe it's because of the whole hip hop community, but now like that shit is just commonplace when it never was. And it's just strange the way that the arbitrary way that we go about judging shit. We can't have real talk. We can't curse, whereas these are just fucking words. And you can't even show a nipple. I mean, what kind of society do we live in when we're terrified of a goddamn nipple? You know, um, when you see the statue of David, and you just come by and look at the statue of David, and you see it, just kind of in awe of its own beauty, and how, a person made this, work of art. And there's going to be plenty of little dick jokes because he didn't leave my poor boy with much in the thinker either. But the point is that if you were to watch it on something, let's say you watch it on Discovery Channel or some shit like that, they're gonna blur out the penis. They're gonna blur out a fake penis, which is a part of, it's an appendage. And where does all of this shit come from? Where does all of this guilt come from? It comes from the fucking church. And it's a fact. I'm not trying to piss off the Christians or anything like that. But let's be real. It's all about church. That's the only reason why we're supposed to be ashamed of our bodies, ashamed of who we are as people, is according to some book, which there are different versions of, and not written by the same people. And this is what we base our own morality on. And yet you're reading stories, if you actually read the Bible, no matter which one. And let's say you grab the New Testament, you start reading the story of Abram, and then you take a step back, and then you go back and read the Old Testament, listen to the story of Abram. It's going to be a different story, but more importantly, it stays as disgusting as it really is. Now, the story of Abram, you have to remember this guy was a dude who had two daughters, and his two daughters decided to get him drunk so that way they could rape him. That's the story. That's what they're going with. Has this ever happened in the history of the world? Do we have any stories on that where it actually happened in real life? You know, let me take a look. Are there any cases all right, so when you look at it, yeah, it really doesn't. It goes into what's the percentage of children being raped by their fathers. They won't even go into it because it's so fucking it's so unrealistic that you can't even Google it. You know, that in itself says a lot. When you actually try to Google something, and even Google says, you leave me the fuck out of it. You know, that's just fucking hilarious. And all right, let's try to see. All right, let's see if we can get back on now with their nonsense over here on TikTok. You know, it's literally like our most popular medium. That literally it's our most popular medium, and yet we get kicked off of it. All this shit. And wait, it said my suspension is over, right? Isn't today the 30th? And yeah, so they wiped us off for drug use. Marijuana is not a fucking drug. Can someone explain that? Now, I don't understand what time period they live on, but they're also saying that the show is somehow allowed back on, but not till 3 minutes ago. You know, what the fuck? This is some crazy ass shit. And you know what was sad was there was a few people that were excited, like, oh shit, Maximum's finally doing his fucking stream. And again, I get blocked. So I wanna fucking give y'all a show. I really do. I really wish I could. Alright. There we go. We back on. No. Oh. Oh, they're gonna make me read this shit? They won't even let me click the motherfucking button until I read this dumb shit that I ain't gonna read. Oh my god, not now, motherfucker. Oh my god, they're straight up they're making me read something. You can't force an American to read, dog. This ain't how it works, man. So they're literally making me click all these buttons so that way I can pretend like I read it. And I mean, what in the fuck is this shit? I mean, what? Do I gotta fucking sign a contract or some shit? Like, in what world is this shit like mandatory? Like, I've never seen so much fucking like forceful shit. But of course, this is a goddamn, this is a Chinese company we're talking about. So of course they're not gonna fucking have anything good for us. This is fucking crazy. All right, you know what? Fuck you. Let's just make a video on TikTok telling them I'm sorry, but it ain't working. All right, so fuck it. You know what? We're just gonna do this shit. This is some bullshit, but dog, like, we just want to do the show, and it just refuses to let us do the show unless I don't know unless I give them blood or something. I don't know what else you want me to do. Like, there's nothing else I can do but click these stupid ass buttons and say I read it. But it will not let me pass go until I've read it. And I'm sure this is really frustrating for you guys at home. I'm really sorry about that. All right, so since y'all won't let us do this live, all right, let's just put it out there. So anyway, we getting kicked off for basically smoking a fucking bong, which is available in stores. It is a legal product. Marijuana is a legal substance. This is America, and we are allowed to smoke our weed. All right. Take that guilt shit back to China because that's not how it works here. I don't give a fuck how the laws are in China, but don't force that shit on us. And that's exactly what just happened. So we've been pulled off the air by TikTok, who then said we can go back onto the air, but they won't unless we read their bylaws or some dumb shit. So we read the bylaws. And instead of giving me a camera, it gives me the bylaws again. I don't like I'm supposed to recite them or I don't know. Like I'm looking for like a little slot where it's like you put your thumb in and it just pricks you and takes a piece of blood and plasma and then says you may now proceed. Like that's what it might as well be doing because this is some dopey ass shit. It doesn't make any lick of sense. And the fact that you can pull somebody right off while they're doing the show um, shows that there's a lot of I don't know protection on it. I mean, did somebody report it, or does it like have a algorithm that notices what a bong looks like, and then if it sees any smoke of any kind? Because I've seen people vape on this shit and no problems there. And we don't even know what the long term effects of that are. We haven't had them long enough to even know yet. So sorry about that. We will try again and try to do this multicasting thing. Again, we are on YouTube, we are on Twitch, and we're on Streamlabs, and we're on Facebook all at the same time while doing this shit. So TikTok is the only one where we have the most followers, but the most restrictions that refuse to let us speak. And the fact that you got these soccer moms flipping out, about TikTok and shit because their kids are dancing around twerking in thongs at 12 years old, and yet I can't even smoke a fucking bong on my own show without being pulled off immediately. So I don't know. How about like less cracking down on potheads and more cracking down on actual butt cracks? Like I don't know. Maybe not allow certain shit like throwing flagging. You got people flagging and throwing up gang signs. You can show someone how to reload a goddamn pistol, but you can't show a motherfucker living his life smoking weed. I'm sorry, man. Y'all got your priorities a little mixed up in this motherfucker. So, yeah, we're really sorry about that, TikTok. And yeah, if you guys want to watch the real show, you guys got to come up over here, I guess, because just go on to Useless Agent. It seems the only place we can be free. Shit, I don't know. I don't even have an answer to that. We can't be free anyway. So now I gotta send this shit out just to let people know that this is out. Like we didn't mean to walk out on anybody, cause we're gonna be told that, hey man, you just fucking canceled your shit, and it's like it's not that. It's just live streaming is a fucking bitch on this show, on this medium. So going back to our original point, we were talking about. I'm sorry. Let's just go. You know what? There's a viewer on Kick right now, so let's focus on you, the viewer. Um, when we talk about the King James Bible and how fucked up it is, the reason why it's so fucked up is because of some very simple reasons. Um, the guy himself, King David, I'm sorry, King David. So when King James came and did the his version of the Bible, it was basically him saying, I don't like how we rich people and royalty are treated like shit in the Bible. He didn't like the way rich people seemed in the Bible. Now, the interesting thing is this guy was a suitor. He wasn't born a king. This guy was a suitor for the queen and ended up being the fuckboy of the year, getting, an actual kingdomship. So he was a suitor turned king, turned megalomaniac, turned complete, oligarch and or monarch. And it just shows that a little bit of power is enough to rot the core of anybody's real soul. And we've seen this before. If you've ever seen footage from, there's a certain test that was done in the 60s. And this was a test on psychological limits. How much would a person go through in putting someone else through pain? Now, the guy would give them basically, he's not allowed to see the guy on the other side, but he's allowed to hear him. And so the guy on the other side of the table, who is a mystery, is has these patches of electroshocks. Now, the patient is asked to keep turning up the notches and buzzing the shit out and zapping this guy. So it's administrating punishment. And so the guy, let's say subject A comes in and sits down there, goes, okay, we're going to do 30 watts of electricity. And you go, okay, 30 watts, presses the button. And then, the guy will shout, it hurts this person. And then they're like, okay, let's go up to 80 volts and 90 volts. And so they keep going up. And the person is literally screaming now. This person's terrified and in a lot of pain. And only one man turns and goes, I'm not doing this anymore. The man's in pain. I can't see him, but I can hear him. He's wailing out there. And the doctor says, he's fine. I already know what the body's capable of. Keep buzzing him. Now, this guy went from, I'm not doing it, to, all right, 120 volts, and then presses it. Now he's doing it out of sadness. What does that show? It shows that it didn't take much for him to go beyond his limits. The doctor didn't have a gun. The doctor didn't have a weapon. The doctor didn't force this man to do this. He told him to, but there was no actual forceful material here. He's not poking him with a stick. There's no pain on the side of the subject, only for the one that he's hurting. And what we had also seen were some people smiling and laughing. And it showed that people do not have restraint when it comes to the amount of control. And this basically explained a lot of the Nazism and basically the hive-minded way of thinking. And it's definitely true. And it's a scary fucking thing to see because you're watching, you're watching humanity literally at its worst. You're watching humanity being exactly what it is and no sugarcoating allowed. It's just exactly what life is. And it's just completely, what's it called? It's just some dark shit. And again, the fact that these guys just kept going and kept going show that when it came down to it, it did not matter. And so the subject or the doctor said that his results were extremely disappointing. He said that he couldn't be more disappointed in the reactions to people because he was hoping that somebody would have said, "No, I refuse to do this anymore. I don't want to hurt anyone." So, yeah, that's just how it went. And so when we see this moron, King James, he was obviously new to nepotism, but he definitely fell into it right away, and he was happy to be the guy on the other side pressing that button. He was very happy to do that. So then his entire attitude changes, and he's basically, um, you know, saying that the Bible is anti-rich, it's anti-royalty, and so he wanted it changed into more of what he thought it was. And that does not go. That doesn't surprise me one bit. And I'm trying to find the actual episode. I had it for you guys. Okay, so what he's actually selling is what's known as the Sinner's Bible. Now, as for you guys on YouTube, I'm hoping you guys will be able to see this. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to catch this, but I'm going to be showing a scene from another show. And I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to see it, but hopefully you can at least hear it. But this is going to explain what exactly is the King James Bible and what is so fucking hilarious about it. And I think that this is a great show called Today I Found Out. It's a great channel, and they do a really good job of covering this. How long ago? 5 years ago. So there's obviously no way you can say that this was made. Made. That's the funny part. So now that you've heard that, it makes so much more sense that this would be the Bible that Trump would send out. The most inaccurate one, the one with the most mistakes, and the one that is the most obnoxious. And when you listen to him explain how many characters had to go through that, uh, that articulate process of going through the meticulous process of going through all the words, making sure that they sounded right rather than being grammatically correct or actually being right, shows another great example of who Trump is. He doesn't care if it's a fact or not. He cares if it looks like a fact. And he's proven that time and time again. The facts don't matter with the new right. It just matters on how they look. And we saw this when he would announce any new kind of person that he would sign, up to his cabinet. They were constantly never brought up about what they did, how good they were at their job, what they've accomplished, which is the normal metric of whether or not we're going to accept him or not. And instead, he would say things like central casting. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in acting or ever tried it, but central casting is the bottom of the barrel place you go when, like you need some zombies and shit. There's nothing wrong, with it, but most of them won't have like a real SAG card and shit like that. And so when you say central casting, those are usually the guys that like I'm not shitting on them. I'm just saying they are looked down on in that kind of industry. Central casting is like gen pop. It just means general actors. It doesn't mean good. It doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean anything. And again, that is another perfect example for who he is. He, in 2019, had changed the RNC to no longer have any sort of actual platform or any actual real ideas for the world. They were just rehashed bullshit that he had tried in different businesses that didn't work the first time. So the the swindle, the scam of the new Bible is just hilarious that he's actually selling the sinner's Bible. Like it couldn't have been funny. I mean, the only thing that would have made that even better is if the person that had handed him the book was like Anton LaVey, the creator of the Satanic Bible. Like they just like switch books or something. Like that's the best way to put it, because it might as well be. The Satanic Bible is actually a lot more interesting than people will give it credit for, though. Most people will consider the Satanic Bible to be that of what it sounds like, being a Satanist and being this and that. But the truth is, the atheist is respectful of all fucking religions, and so we just don't follow it. And so a true atheist simply believes that we should build a hospital instead of a church. We should build a place for children to be safe, like a daycare or a shelter for children, anything, adoption center, orphanage, rather than a church. Nothing is accomplished. So it's not about a hatred for God. It's about a love for people that has been left out of the fucking frame. And it's now a part of the fray to believe in people. It's now part of this strange way of thinking because you love humans. You love being able to feel and able to talk to other people. I'm one of those guys that get on the bus and I don't care who you are. If you're sitting next to me, I'm probably going to talk to you, unless I can tell you're not in the mood. There's social cues to follow, but my point is that, being a social butterfly has never been a bad thing. You will always need people in your life. It takes a village to do anything. The other day, I mentioned I got to do I got to hang out with some comedians and really get to just do some jokes and shit. And it had been a long time since I'd felt that kind of exception. And that's kind of the beauty of the entertainment industry when it comes down to the people that we are. For the most part, we're pretty good people. There's a lot of, Madonnas and ladder climbers, just like in any other job. The only difference is when it happens in Hollywood, you see it. Now, in some cases you don't, but you end up hearing about it. Like, for instance, Cat Williams talking about people like Cedric the Entertainer, and especially people like Steve Harvey, who I fucking remembered seeing his show, the Steve Harvey show. The very moment I saw the credits, I said, "Yeah, I've seen this before. It was called Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and it was better." And I never watched an episode because it was dead on the same fucking plot. It went from, oh yeah, we got Mark Curry. He's gonna wear a suit. He's a basketball coach, principal dude, and he's gonna have not interracial, but like more urban issues and shit like that. And then you have Steve Harvey having the exact same show, and I will never understand how it lasted more than fucking 2 episodes. And this isn't just throwing shade at a motherfucker because I like Cat Williams. To be perfectly honest, I didn't like Cat Williams. A lot of his stuff I thought was tired. Some of his stuff I thought was kind of cheap. But when you listen to that man talk and you listen to the realities that he brings up within the industry, he's one of the most real motherfuckers I've ever heard. Now, when it comes down to Kevin Hart, let's just jump back to 40-Year-Old Virgin. That was the first time I had ever seen Kevin Hart. And then he had the funniest line, he just said, like, blah, 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 both y'all, that scene, he's hilarious. Now, I knew instantly that dude had to be somebody. And I asked around, and right away, someone told me, yeah, that's Kevin Hart. And I'm like, okay. And then right away, dude said, I'll never forget what he said. They're prepping him to be the new Eddie Murphy. They're prepping him to be the new Chris Rock. And I remember thinking, you can't do that. And they did, though. They really did. And now you got, Cat Williams being one of the only motherfuckers to be real about it, And I have a genuine love for people that are real. And so when it came down to Cat Williams, I was a fan of Friday After Next, but that was about it. I didn't see anything else that was worth watching. Now, I'd rented his comedy, and a lot of it was shit that just I couldn't relate to, and it's just a culture clash, really. Like when I listen to George Lopez talk about parties and shit, I'm gonna laugh harder because I've been in that kind of lifestyle. But when it comes down to the black culture, it's very, very similar, but there are, very esoteric little nooks and crannies that you should know about, just like in George Lopez jokes, you know? And so, like when he says, there's a pain in my chest and I can birth. We all know an uncle that sounds like that if you're from a Hispanic background. So it's all about culture, It ain't no different. And so I remember feeling a little out of place because some of his jokes just like, I don't know, wasn't feeling it. But once he started talking about weed, I would laugh my ass off. Anytime I talk about weed in jail, I'd laugh. And it's usually the comedian's comedian that gets the least amount of credit and the least amount of fucking views, and yet you'll find out later they're fucking straight up you know inspiration to everybody. Look at Buzz from the Melvins, and without Buzz you would have no fucking Rage Against the Machine. You would have no Tool. You'd have no fucking Nirvana without Buzz. And most people don't know who the fuck that is. When you look at like Tom Morello, Tom Morello is the guy that introduced Maynard to Adam Jones. So again, it's these like little things. And so it's no different in comedy. The comedian's favorite comedian will be somebody that either you don't like or you never really got into. And that's just how it is, because we see a different love for it. Like Mitch Hedberg, in my opinion, was one of the fucking best comedians of all time. And he had such a small amount of time, and yet he didn't need much of it. He reminded me so much of Stephen Wright that I was really hoping this is going to be a new Stephen Wright, but he passed away. And then Bo Burnham got a lot of shade because Bo Burnham plays music during his comedy shows. People like Carrot Top, Bo Burnham. There's a few other ones. Jeff Dunham. For some reason, when you start breaking in props and shit, you're immediately looked down on by the stand-up guys, and they really tore into guys like Dimitri Martin for bringing in a poster board, because visual art, bringing in props and visuals is, in some old school comedians' mind, that's cheating, because you're not getting up there without anything else, just you and a microphone and you doing your job. And on the one hand, you could totally understand and respect that, but not everybody needs to take that same path. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be that way. And if you're gonna bitch about Dimitri Martin, then you're gonna have to bitch about Andy Kaufman. You're gonna have to bitch about Steve Martin. You're gonna have to bitch about a few people, because sometimes there's props. So is it fair to compare Richard Pryor to Bo Burnham? Not necessarily, because you don't see Richard Pryor breaking out an acoustic guitar or a piano and shit like that. So there has to be more money into the production automatically. Whereas, stand-ups, we just do our job. We can do it on a street corner, or we could do it on here, whatever we want. And the art itself is not full. It's not dead, but it's just taking such a hard pounding because of the way the world is today, right now, the way the politics are, and the way that how touchy people are. And you and I can disagree on anything. It don't matter. I would never let you fall off a cliff. I don't give a fuck who you are. I'm saving you. That's the reality of it. And when I was talking with one guy, and we're just talking about random shit, and he said something about Will Smith creating the ha 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 in his music, and I'm like, bullshit, man. That's fucking Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, yo. And right away, he's like, man, I didn't know you knew your hip hop like that. And it's like, yeah, well, you should. Because we're all from the street, and when you're all from the street, you have the same kind of mindset, and that is being taken away by this false sense of reality that they want to push forward onto us. When you look at people like you know, the right in general. What they want to do is basically dismantle the entire educational system, the entire school system, which again, this is just backpedaling from what they did before. Now, remember back in the day, school systems used to be more of a social front and left to the states because it was up to them to educate their young, and that way the federal government would not have a narrative, the exact shit that's going on today. So um, they started making more laws, for kids to have to go to school. And what the right is doing today is dismantling all of that. They're trying to, because a lot of the money that they get come from privatized schools. So the private schools, like there's Scientologist kid schools. These people have so much money invested into the actual fucking politicians that they send off this envelope and say, okay, I want you to go over here and I just want you to dismantle the school system, call the teachers, indoctrinators and all this shit. Meanwhile, you got the teacher making less than 40 grand a year, having to pay for her own goddamn markers and shit. And I remember this. I had a teacher who paid for us because we didn't get any pomp and circumstance to our graduation. We were the fuck ups. And what was really cool was that we had a teacher. She went out of her way to go out and get us Eli's cheesecake. Some of us never even had it. People like this motherfucker never even had it before. That's because I went to a fucking neighborhood grammar school for summer school. I went to a smart school, and back then, if you went to a smart schools got the least amount of money, and that's because George Bush thought, hey, if you're smart, then you don't need money. So we would be the ones with no ceiling fans, sweating our asses off. And yet every year we watch the grants going to these other schools while we're the ones keeping the fucking grade point averages. We're the ones fucking acing these tests. But in the eyes of the government, that meant we don't need any help. So graduation comes around, I go over to the neighborhood school. They got a cafeteria. We ate in our lunchrooms. They had choose your own fucking food. Our shit came in a little box, in an orange fucking cooler and shit like that, and then a blue crate for milks. They got chocolate milk. We ain't get no fucking chocolate milk. It was literally like an entirely new fucking experience, being able to see, wait a minute, y'all get to choose, y'all get pudding and shit. And for me, it just made me so angry because it was like, if we had this shit in our school, we wouldn't be so fucking miserable. And I mean, if we had a tenth of what they had, we still had the same rope from the 70s. We had, it was just how the school system worked. We'd have to see Paul Vallis come by every goddamn year telling us this and that he's going to get us air conditioners we never got, telling us we're going to get computers. They even had to cancel computer classes because of the fact that we didn't have enough computers. And then they got a whole new line of these Macintoshes. If you remember those color see-through Macintoshes that were really big back then, those motherfuckers. And we weren't allowed to touch them. Swear to God, we weren't allowed to touch them because we grew up without them. So that was their reasoning, was because most of us grew up without them. You don't need one. You don't need to learn how to use one. To me, that shit was setting us up to fail, because we were literally walking into a whole new generation where computers are not only going to be a commonplace, but they're going to become damn near necessity. And we obviously didn't have one because I grew up, without any silver spoon in my mouth. And we certainly didn't have the money to spend on no fucking $1,000 computer. We were one of those families that a $500 injury would put us in a really dark hole. Back then, 3-bedroom apartments could still run you $400. Now you can't even get a closet for $500. And if you do, you're gonna have to go to some really dark ass places like fucking Uptown or fucking just shitholes where you're probably not gonna make it fucking home one day. And I just you get sick of being robbed and all that shit. But going back to all of this shit, and what's funny is even in those horrible ass neighborhoods, you know what we had more than anything? Churches. Motherfucking churches. Just sitting there, always closed, someone always dying in front of one. And I'm like, how about we build a fucking hospital right there? Since everyone's always getting shot right there, can we at least put up like a police station or some shit? Maybe that'll do something. But it's been like that for years. And I mean decades. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm talking about like all the way at the top of that motherfucker. Like it's around here. About here. And that whole spot is fucked. And if you were to put in even like the smallest little police station, you would see an entire improvement. It's also the only Chicago location that has a Sonic. The only Chicago location. And I was so excited to go there. I actually met the guys from the commercials. They're a couple of comedians that are actually from Chicago. And so, yeah, I was talking with them. And it was hilarious because I said, there's a Sonic over there. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm here. We had to do the commercial for it. And I told him, there's a really bad neighborhood. And he goes, yeah, why do you think I'm leaving? And it was hilarious because, fuck it, man. I ain't going over there to get shot just to get a goddamn hot dog. I went there and got a chili cheese dog. I got the worst fucking thing I ever seen, man. I've had way better ones from fucking 7-Eleven at fucking 2 a.m. But that's just life. So when we go through all this shit and we see all the lies and everything is like as transparent as glass or ice, and if you're not seeing it, you're not looking. And the problem is you got way too many people that just ain't looking. They don't look because they don't care. And there's this feeling, or there's this assumption, a false assumption, that everything is going to be all right. And you know what? In most cases, I'd say, yeah, you're probably right. Probably tripping for nothing. But in a case like this, you're not. You're tripping for a good reason. And honestly, at this point, I just wish you all the best of health. All right. I'm sorry the simulcast didn't go the way I wanted to, but damn, TikTok kicked us off real fucking fast. Shit. So yeah, I mean, throw me some shit. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's perfect that he picked the King James Bible? What's your thoughts on King James? What's your thoughts on King David? And did you know any of this beforehand or not? Because I love having these conversations with y'all. You guys are really great. I really can't say enough about my listeners, the ones that you guys talk to me on the street, and I fucking love every second of it. All right, so love y'all. Stay safe, stay peaceful, stay free, and I'll keep making these. Y'all keep watching them and keep feeding me back. All right, love y'all. Everybody stay safe.